You're listening to a DM podcast.
We would like to acknowledge and give thanks to the traditional owners of the land we record this podcast on, the Yagara and Turrbal people,
and their continued connection to the land and waterways on which we meet.
Hello and welcome to Sportish, where we look at life through the lens of sport. I'm Georgie Trickett.
I am Libby Trickett.
Oh, you
I had to really think about it. My brain is...
And we are so excited today to have an expert in the house, Libby.
Yes, not us.
No.
Clearly not us. We have Dr Zali Yager, who has made an incredible effort to be with us today. Dr Zali Yager is a body image expert. She is the executive director at the Embrace Collective. She has a PhD. She is, in terms of research and information, just an absolute wealth of knowledge in the body image space. And we are so grateful to have her here. And Georgie, you had the pleasure of being with Zali.
I did.
Not that long ago.
So only maybe a month ago now, Zali and I did a webinar for Embrace all about the role of body image in sport. And it was such a cracking conversation that honestly, I could have continued for another hour. And afterwards, I said to Zali, this is a chat I would love to take to the sporties and let them listen in on, because there were so many great messages. And I, even as part of that conversation, had some really great aha moments. So Zali, welcome. Thank you for joining us all the way from California, which is where you live at the moment. How are you?
I'm good. It's great to be here and really excited. I too loved that conversation and just could have kept going. So glad we get to have another crack at it.
I think for me, where I would love to start is, how did you end up working in this field of body image and wanting to create these environments which are safe for kids around talking about how they look, how they feel in their bodies, and what brought you here to this moment?
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, it is a very long story, but the short version is that I have a health and physical education background. So I was, going to go and become a PE teacher. And then through my kind of lived experience of being a young person in the 90s with all of the pressure that was around at that time, I had my own kind of experience, I guess, with body image pressure and disordered eating that really led me to be quite fascinated by this space. And even some of the assignments that I found moving out of houses over the years, I was creating programs to try and help young people feel better about their bodies. So then fast forward, went into teacher education and was just always focused in the research space around trying to figure out what's going to help young people, and particularly in school-based programs, mostly because I just wanted to stop other young people from feeling the way that we did at school. And fast forward, then figured that we had all this research knowledge, we weren't really telling people about it. And so created the Embrace Collective and work alongside 2023 Australian of the Year Tara Bromfit. And we've really just brought together the science and the creativity to be able to make programs that can just break this issue down and make it a little bit more accessible for people, so that all of the people that surround the young people kind of know what to do and what to say in order to be able to create environments that are going to be, different to what we had and just have less pressure around appearance.
I think so many women of our age have had that experience growing up of feeling uncomfortable in their body. I remember stopping dancing when I was 10 years old because I got told that I looked chubby in my leotard. I love the fact that you are doing something so practical in this space. It's not just about telling people something. It's like showing them how to navigate sometimes some very difficult and uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah. I mean, we wanted to make things that were practical because no one has any time, right? So it's like teachers, parents, sports coaches, everyone's just give it to me in the shortest possible way. And a lot of the time, the first thing people ask about is well, what do I say? How do I talk? And people literally don't have the words to go into their mouth that feel like they would be different, because the environments we were in were not what we're trying to create. And so it's, when we haven't had sort of a supportive, positive experience, how do we sort of change and interrupt the cycle to make sure that we're not kind of just doing what was done to us, but make something that's actually positive. So we do focus a lot on, what to say, and a lot of it is just what not to say. And your experience there is so classic of just someone making an offhand comment that probably meant nothing to them, and they won't even remember that they said that to you, and yet it stopped you from doing a thing that you loved, and you remember it for like many, many years.
Yes, exactly. I still remember that little girl.
I wasn't going to try and do the math then, but I was like, I can assume it's been many years since you've danced.
Zali, I am fascinated by the idea that so much of the work that you're doing is also informed by your experience of sport. Can you tell us a little bit about what sport was like for you growing up and how that's sort of like played into your profession?
Yeah, I mean, this is embarrassing because I'm like the least coordinated PE teacher ever, and I have to now admit that to a whole audience of very sporty people who are probably...
Well, we welcome everyone.
Okay.
It's all about participation.
Okay. Well, I guess my experience of particularly PE, but also sport, was of being uncoordinated and just being very good at getting out of any kind of learning about how to throw a ball, catch a ball, do anything. So I was, in a larger body and could get out of it by saying, I'll run that errand to the office instead of lining up in PE. So I kind of went into trying to become a PE teacher because I was like, someone has to do this a little differently and make sure that that kid doesn't get out of doing all of, really essential learning that I wish I had done. But then also being in that larger body, the experience of, I guess, just the coaches and the comments, and particularly the visceral feeling of the netball skirt, which everyone can picture from the 90s, with that little zipper thing. It had to go on, and it was meant to just glide effortlessly to the end. But it doesn't always. And so that visceral feeling of having uniforms that did not feel comfortable and were not really conducive to throwing my body around court, I didn't feel like it was covering me at all. So it's about a kind of having some of those feelings and experiences early on mean that I know exactly what it feels like for a lot of young people and just want to make it different.
I would love to understand how you kind of came to work with Taryn, because seemingly, she was doing body image movement. Yeah. Taryn started as the body image movement. She kind of went viral, she went global, and she has created some documentaries. Have you known her forever, or how did you kind of come to be with Taryn and creating such a powerful movement in this body image space?
No, I haven't known her forever. I actually went along to see the Embrace film, the first film, in 2016. I had a toddler at home and I just had my twin girls. So I was pretty keen to get out of the house and see a film. And I went to see the film with so many other women and just was very struck by the fact that, the film ended and there was no one in that room who was not crying. And there was no one in that room who was not really affected in a really positive way by that film. And I kind of went, oh, that's done so much more than all of our sciencey, theory-driven programs. So I reached out to Taryn and said, I'm really fascinated by the potential impact of this film. Could we do an evaluation? And did a piece of research that showed that that film actually had led to increases in body appreciation for the women who saw it. So over that time, she was like, oh, science. And we started talking a little bit more about, what the research and evidence showed in this space. And when Taryn, the number one piece of feedback that she got after that first film was, I wish I'd seen this when I was younger. And so once she went about trying to make a film for young people, that's when we started to really work more closely, so that basically I took all of the things that we know in the research space and kind of converted those into some messages that we could put out in a film and tried to inform that with the science so that it would be safe and effective for young people for a start. And now we kind of do that with all of our programs. We bring together the research and then she brings the creativity that makes it interesting and engaging and inspiring for people. And we pull all of that together into, make programs and resources that people actually want to engage with.
That's incredible. I love that idea that in some ways you have to bring science to life to really make it engaging.
Yeah.
And to give it the vehicle that it needs to be
received.
And yeah, and understood. There's a real art to that communication of science. And we're so incredibly lucky that you two found each other to bring to life the really incredible evidence. And I think it's really important to say that the work that you and Taran do now is evidence-based. And I think that it just means that as parents and as adults who are working in and around the sports space or just involved in sport,
or just involved in young people.
Just involved in life. You can operate with confidence that what you're saying actually is backed by science. This is not some sort of woo-woo, we recommend and we think. This is actually factual, concrete, evidence-based.
We love scientific evidence here.
Yeah, this is actionable stuff that you can do and know that you're doing something that will actually improve the confidence of children and young adults when it comes to body image.
Yeah. I mean, that's the idea anyway. And maybe so much of this is about creating settings that are going to be more positive. So sometimes it's not just one thing you do. It's like the cumulative impact of everyone kind of doing these things. But hopefully the idea is that if we all just create really small practical changes to the way that we do things, particularly in sporting environments, then it can have a really big impact, because if everyone's doing it, it changes everything around a young person and makes it a much more positive experience for them.
I'm really interested because we're all women of a certain age and, we have had all of these experiences. Is there a common theme that you see from women of our age in the body image space? I'm just interested because I think it's nice to feel not alone when you're kind of thinking about these body image and sometimes really difficult and uncomfortable topics. Is there a common theme for women of our age and the difference they're trying to make for their children and that challenge in not necessarily having been brought up in that environment of body positive conversations?
Yeah. What we know from the research is that, adolescence is a really tough time developmentally. And it's generally the time when women, but all young people, will struggle the most with their body image. And then for women, the trajectory kind of goes it does get a little bit better. You get a little bit less critical, but then it doesn't get great. And it just kind of stays at that plateau level, your entire life. So although we kind of stopped talking about body image as soon as people aren't adolescents anymore, so many of the messages that we received when we were younger were kind of that your body should kind of stay the same throughout your life. And we now know that, actually, your body is constantly changing, particularly through the experience of motherhood. And, I think there's a lot of us now who are kind of coming to that place where we can accept and appreciate our own bodies, if not, in that kind of #love your body way, but more just for the functionality. I did a lot of work around motherhood and just that realization of what your body has done in growing young people, feeding them, nourishing them. It kind of gives you a new perspective on your body that you can appreciate. So I tend to find that, particularly women come to this place where they might not necessarily be entirely satisfied and #love your body about the way that it looks, but they can start to appreciate what it does for them. And once they've kind of gone through all of that, then they're determined not to have their, particularly daughters, go through a similar experience that they do. So it is pretty common that I hear that, particularly mothers want to change something, and then they're always talking about the fact that as the parent, we want to do things a certain way, but then the grandparents is a whole different ballgame. You sometimes, and they start to recognise some of the things that the grandparents are saying to their kids that were said to them that have really reinforced some of the learning and the messages there. But I think that we're all just trying to do a little bit better now that we know more, and just really help our kids to not have to go through so much of that kind of just the shame about their bodies.
It's really interesting, that question you raised, Liv, and it was something that Zali and I talked about in the webinar that we did, because for me, I hadn't realised this until Zali and I were chatting. My body image in lots of ways was informed in a really positive way by sport.
Yes.
So because I played softball and because softball's a bat and ball sort of game and you're hitting all the time, there's an incredible power that comes to you through that hitting process and that realization that your body's actually really strong. You can really smack a ball and there's something
crush it.
There's something that really happens in terms of your psychology that goes, I'm really powerful. Look at it.
Totally.
It wasn't until I spoke to Zali about it that I had that realization. And also as an adult, now doing cross training and stuff like that and doing certain exercises that had me almost swinging a bat, that I was like, oh, I feel amazing. Look at this power that it brings to me. So there's like, as well as settings like sport being this place where, people can say terrible things and really impact the self-confidence of kids and young adults, it's also this place where you can really start to understand a bit more about your body and the power that it possesses.
Absolutely.
I think we need to do some worked examples. We're very practical people. I really, Zali, would love to understand what to do when. So if we run some case scenarios. So say, for example, you're a parent on the sidelines and you've just heard another parent make a comment about a child's body. How do you respond? What do we do as adults in that moment to address what we've just heard?
You've gone for a really hard one straight up, and it's something that it is so common. We're visual beings. So sometimes things come out of our mouth and we haven't thought it through, right? Like a lot of parents will make a comment about, oh, that person's ridiculously tall or something. And that can be okay, but we do want to move towards kind of becoming a little bit more aware of it. And so if you are the person, and I hate confrontation as well, so I would usually just try to change the subject, or if they did it once, I'd probably let it pass, but then if they did it again, I'd probably try and say something. But I think that just kind of saying oh, maybe it's not great for us to be commenting on their appearance. I think it can just be that, something like that. Or you can be like, oh, I had this great podcast the other day and they were talking about, we really need to try not to say things about their appearance on the sidelines. They can blame you too for bringing them the information.
Yes, exactly. I was going to say, I love the leading with, it's so interesting. I feel like I heard, and maybe I'm wrong, this backpedaling.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure
but also science.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's hard because you don't want to be policing what people can say and what they cannot say. But I think particularly if there are young kids around, or if the other players who are, if they can hear you, I think you can use that and just be like, oh, let's not talk like that when there are little ears listening or something. Because, I think that we can change our behaviour mostly for other people, not just because someone said so on the sideline. So people will do it for the kids. So we can use them as well.
Zali, when a kid has been exposed to some, not ideal feedback from coaches or other parents or people around them and in sport, as parents and as teachers, what's the best way to address that situation with the child or the teen?
With the child, it just really depends on the situation as to whether it's a public thing or whether it's something that you just talk to them privately about. But I think we did a little bit of just anecdotal kind of research, and some other people have done this too. And I think there's huge, people responded to this question, were kind of adults now thinking back on what they would have wanted to hear in those moments. And the main thing that comes across is just to be talking about, oh, how did that make you feel when that person said that thing? It could make you feel, angry, upset, all of that sort of thing. And then just to make sure that we say, there is nothing wrong with your body. Just that one line could have solved and saved so many of us so much pain. Someone's just no, there's nothing wrong with you. And to then ask the child what they need or how do you feel in your body. It's kind of then you can come out of that situation and asking the child, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to go and talk to the coach? Do you want me to talk to other people? Kind of depending on their age, checking in just to see what they want to happen next. But I think it's just that one line of there is nothing wrong with you, even though someone might have said, oh, wow, they're really tall or they're really skinny or they're really, too fat or whatever. They just need to know that they're okay.
I love that.
Perfect just as they are.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we say that a lot, but it's about them really understanding that you fully accept and appreciate their body, and that can kind of open the door to them being able to do it as well.
And hopefully my dream is that then leads parents and women to then more fully embrace and accept their own bodies through that process as well.
Yeah, exactly. And we've had, through kind of getting this program out across Australia, we've had so many conversations with, pretty high-level stakeholders in state or national sporting organisations. And my colleagues have this talk that they give when they go and talk about the Activate materials. And they always ask, put your hand up if someone said something to you in a sporting setting about your body that was negative. And most of the time, every single person has their hand up. And that really, I guess, by connecting in with people's own experiences. And these are like 40, 50-year-old men sometimes, women sometimes. Everyone has had that experience and they know what that felt like. And it's just so universal that everyone is then really on board to try and change it.
I love listening to this.
Yeah. No, I'm just entranced by what you're saying. And I think what's really powerful to me is the idea that we're trying to get all the settings right. So not only are we, we've gone really nitty gritty here with some practical things that you can say in certain situations, but we're also creating this environment and this culture around sport where it's so much more body positive than it's ever been, and the implications are huge for not just children, it's also for the adults.
I had a wonderful opportunity to work with Embrace in creating the Activate Masterclass with sport and body image in mind. Can you kind of give our sporties an idea of some of the top tips from that masterclass and kind of direct people where they can go to get more information about this?
Yes. So yeah, we were very lucky to have you really bringing that masterclass to life. And the whole idea with that is just to give 4 key recommendations to anyone who is involved in sport with young people to just create some small changes. And so the 4 recommendations are around really making sure that we're not talking about people's bodies, so not making those sort of comments, celebrating diversity in terms of, really having representation of all different types of sizes and shapes and abilities of bodies in all of the, if your club has a Facebook group or prints out brochures or that sort of thing, as well as in the physical space in the club, really trying to make sure that young people can kind of see themselves in that sporting context. The third one is around focusing on food as fuel, and that's kind of trying not to make comments about, if there is a canteen situation and kids have bought, different types of treats that might be available there, trying to pass judgment or talk about that, and just to basically make sure that no one's commenting on what people are eating if they don't have the appropriate qualifications to be doing that. And the final one is around uniforms, and that's just around having some flexibility and to kind of let young people choose wherever it's possible. I'm saying uniforms are political, but to let young people choose what's going to make them feel comfortable when they're participating. So, if it's about just letting everyone choose, it has to be the colour black, but you can wear shorts, or you can wear leggings, or you can wear shorts over leggings, or you can wear a skirt. Having that kind of flexibility, I think, will mean that everyone can make their own choices around, they're not vulnerable in terms of exposing their body when there's a sideline full of parents. They don't feel like their skirt's flipping up, or they can just actually focus on the game and on doing what they need to do and not on, trying to pull their shorts down.
I think often parents, coaches, administrators, clubs, organizations, they feel like they have to be perfect. And it's like, we can't, say anything wrong and everything, we're going to get into trouble. We're not aiming for perfection. We're just aiming for improvement. And overall, everyone's getting better, and we're going to say the wrong things sometimes. And that's okay, as long as we keep trying to improve and generally get better. Is that what you're kind of seeing as well?
Yeah, definitely. And particularly it's weird in this space when we're trying not to do things as well. So it's it feels hard to sort of have perfection in not saying things or, not making comments. But the absence, each time something is not said, I feel like that's such a huge step forward in terms of creating such a different and more positive environment for those young people. But no one will even notice that it wasn't said. So it's kind of hard to take those steps. But I think that there's generally really good awareness. Everyone's on board. It's something we're all going to slip up on. And it's just about taking that next step forward to be more aware and to start to not say some things. And then over time, the cumulative impact of that is going to be so huge.
I think it's really important to let any of the clubs or administrators listening know that there's incredible resources with Embrace. They have very practical, very accessible toolkits, resources, packs. You just need to go onto the embracehub.com and you'll be able to find all of those things there. This is an incredibly supportive environment. Zali has said, this is not about, finding all the problems and pointing you out. This is about giving clubs and schools and associations the tools to improve the culture that sits around sport. And it's such incredible work that you're doing, Zali. We're so lucky that this is born out of an Australian context.
Yes.
And that we have access to these resources and that it's so supportive of our sporting environments. We can't thank you enough for the work that you do. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Really appreciate it.
Wasn't she just incredible?
I just love Zali. I'm like, where do I go with this?
Where to begin?
Where to even begin? Because she is someone who has had life experience that I wanted to have. Like, I wanted to be a PE teacher growing up.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
I didn't know this about you.
So my dream was to be a PE teacher when I was leaving school before swimming started and all of that sort of stuff. And it's something that I dabbled with the idea of doing at some point. And I just love her trajectory, and she's using that teaching, she's using that information, and she's just gone into this amazing niche area of body image, which has been informed by her own experiences.
Yeah.
But then made it with just such incredible research and is creating something so practical and something so valuable that will help change and shape the way that young people will experience not just sport. Obviously, sport is our special
interest area,
but it's going to massively change the way people experience their lives and their bodies and how they feel about them.
I just think it's incredible that we have a world-leading expert in this area who is working so consciously to improve the lives and the sporting lives of kids in this country. And I think all of these things just help improve not only the kids' relationship with sport, but everyone's relationship with sport.
Like when bodies.
But when we de-link our bodies and what they look like with sport, I think you only get more benefit. And it's I think you made such a good point, Liv.
Thanks.
When you said that through this whole process and through what we're doing with kids, adults are now realising and working through their own issues that they had with sport.
Yeah. And that will help them not only become at peace and embrace and accept their bodies and what they are and what a miracle we are, just as being here. But that will then allow them to help shape and lift up their own kids and the young people that are around them.
We can't recommend you going and checking out the Embrace Hub enough. It's really accessible, really easy. I think it's rare that you see science translated into such a consumable product and something that's so audience friendly, which is why we love working with Embrace so much.
The embracehub.com is, of course, where we spoke about all of the amazing resources that they have. If you want to follow Zali on Instagram, it's at Dr Zali Yager. If you want to follow Taran, who is, again, this amazing resource of knowledge and passion, she's at Body Image Movement. The Embrace Collective, there's at the Embrace Hub, which is obviously, again, where you can get all of those links and things. But we will have that all in our bio, won't we, Georgie?
Yes, we will.
You're all over that.
It won't be in our bio. It'll be in the show notes.
Show notes. Thank you.
And that's why I do those things.
That's why you're in charge.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Sportish. We would love it if you could share what you're listening to with just even one friend. That just helps us so much as a little small podcast trying to do good in the world. We love your support. Feel free to send us an email or a DM with any things you'd like us to chat about. And we'll be back in your summer ears soon.
We're not sure when.
Libby.
It's a weekly-ish podcast over January.
It's very holiday vibes. So just check your feeds and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.